get together and feel alright. Let's get together, fight this on, get one love. So when the man comes, no, one song. Pity all know, chances grow thinner. There ain't no hiding place. Father of creation saying, one love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Give thanks and grace to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Singing, let's get together and feel alright. All right, welcome, welcome, Fred. Thank you very much. With us as always, Fred, singer of songs, doer of justice, prophet in residence. Fred, how are things?
Things are well.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. We'll probably come back and talk a little bit about faith. As we've been prepping, we've been all kind of talking together. Brandon's here producing. Welcome, Brandon. Good to have you here. And we're all going to be working together to pull off the Faith Action Assembly coming up. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Kenny, how's it going?
It's going good.
Awesome. Glad to have you back with us. Kenny's going to add to some liturgy tonight and join some of this discussion. Glad that you guys are here. Hey, hey gang. Hey, Bill Brennan. Hey, Danny. Great to see you. Jay, it is great to see you also. I think we have Dan Hensley. Who else did you say? You saw some other folks that
John
won?
Scott.
John
Cindy
Scott.
Malinowski.
Awesome. Cindy Malinowski. Good to see you. Hey, guys. Glad everybody is on. And welcome back in some ways. Welcome back, but also welcome to sort of the thing before the thing. We are meeting again on Sunday nights, which is nice. As I've said in some of the videos, I have missed you guys. Not these guys, because I still see them quite a bit. But I have missed you guys, even you, Brandon. Love, so much love. I've missed you guys. I've missed the regularity of ritual on Sunday night. Somehow the phrase came up in the last couple weeks, you can't binge spirituality. And that's been practically true for me in this 6 weeks, is I've missed the regularity, not the product, not that I needed to get together on Sunday night for church to get something, but I missed the ritual of being together with you guys, and of self-reflection, of asking what it is we should be doing with these lives. So, by the way, I'm Ben. I should have introduced myself. Welcome along. Ben, I'll be the guide tonight. We're in what we call our Sunday night liturgy. Liturgy means the work of the people. And the idea is that it's not just my work, and it's not the work of one staff member or even one little group of people, but it's all of our work to work out our spiritual community together. So what you need to do to be a part of that spiritual community at this point in human history, what that requires for this church is that you be on a weekly email. And it's at this point, it's really more than once a week, but you want to go to wearecollectivechurch.com, and at the very bottom there, you sign up for the email, or the button on the very top says connect with us. Click that button. You're going to get the weekly email from here on out. That is going to be where you need to land to get all the info. So wearecollectivechurch.com. Sign up for that email, please. Obviously, hopefully you're already on Facebook. If you've joined us and you're on Facebook Live, awesome. Go ahead and follow us if you haven't already. Go ahead and like Collective if you haven't already. Normally, and in about 6 weeks, starting on Easter, we're going to be also streaming to YouTube. We just don't have the bandwidth to do that live from the backyard, from the back shed. So we're just on Facebook tonight, but you still probably want to go over to youtube.com/wearecollectivechurch and sign up there, get subscribed. This Monday, here's what's coming up. Our amazing yogi, Sarah Humbert, over at The Road Om Facebook page, The Road Om. She does a weekly Monday yoga flow for Collective, so if you want to go over there, find her at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. We will also try and share that through Collective's page at that time as well. There is no work of the people again this week. Schedules do not permit. Please believe me when I say I am missing some of that goodness of being together and working through texts and getting ready for liturgy, and we're very close to being able to do that again, but it's not right now. It's not quite yet. So hopefully the following week, I promise I'll keep you posted. Kenny will keep me honest. We'll keep you posted as soon as we have the ability to do that again. Dan Hensley sent us some info on what's going on this Thursday with Collective Cares. Dan, you can go ahead and share that. I know you shot it to Kenny. He's going to get that stuff out on Facebook. I believe the stuff coming up already is, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So that stuff did go out already. Guys, doesn't it feel good? Let me just take a breath. I want to celebrate this. It's been a long road. After having Jess, after having full-time help at full-time staff, it's been a long road. But it feels so good to be able to say that there's already an email in your inbox. If you're subscribed to the email, there's already an email in your inbox. It already has the info, and there's already events up on Facebook. That may not feel as good to you as it does to me, but it feels really good. So whether you're joining us now live or later on, welcome. Wherever you are, whenever, your presence makes us who we are. Fred, would you read that community statement for us? Or no, Kenny. Kenny, lay it on us.
All right. We value highly the metaphor of journey. We're different people from different places and backgrounds, representing an intergenerational community, and we have traveled different paths. So, we agree not to make assumptions about the person across from us, next to us, or in conversation with us. We challenge ourselves to be sensitive, knowing this community includes a diverse group of people, from lifelong followers of Jesus to people who are just now open to the idea that God might exist. We strive to avoid offense, ask good questions, articulate and explain our responses. We don't assume fluency in Bible, spirituality, or church language, because we believe the message of Jesus is not for Christianity, but for humanity. So, we do everything in the spirit of love and grace.
Awesome. Thanks, Kenny.
You're welcome.
All right, Fred, let's do it. Come into the world alone. And go out of the world alone. But in between, it's you and me. Whoa. 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 Summer breezes blow so strong. The winter nights are cold and so long. But in between the falling leaves, whoa, 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 whoa. Days and nights are killing me. Light and dark are still in me. There's an anchor on the beach, so let the wind blow hard and let the falling start. Oh, whoa. so good. So good. Thank you guys. Super good again to be with you. Listen, we're in this Lent season. Lent is like we just got out of Advent, leading into Christmas. It's a moment before the moment in spiritual community. It's a way of marking time. It's a way of getting ready. We're coming into Easter in just 6 weeks. Lent is the way for a couple thousand years. The Christian tradition has been intentional about getting ready for Easter. And the premise is that to get to resurrection, you have to die. And so Lent is 6 weeks of what does it mean for human beings to come to terms with their mortality. And historically, this has meant like really cool, great practical things like giving up chocolate, and also things that might not necessarily capture that bigger dealing with mortality. Like, right, giving up chocolate is a little death. I'll give you that. Or I shouldn't make fun, because if I gave up caffeine, look, I can't. It's right over here. It's just off camera. Because what would I do if I didn't have the caffeine? I'm not meaning to make light. What I'm saying is that we've symbolized in smaller ways these little deaths. We talked in the past about the way that Sabbath is a practice in death. It's a practice in being good for nothing and setting down your productivity. So in the same way, Lent is, what does it mean for us to practice coming to terms with our mortality? What does it mean? And for us, that means we're going to stay slow. That's how we're going to begin. We want to be intentional about simplicity. We want to emphasize simple practices. So Jesus grew up in the Hebrew faith. The Hebrew faith had this simple one-liner that captured kind of the whole thing, and it was this: listen, which I love that it opens with a call to action. I think that's really bold. So the one-liner is this: listen so that you might learn to love God with integrity of heart, mind, soul, and strength. Listen so that you might learn to love God with integrity, with oneness, with harmony of heart, mind, soul, and strength. And that's my paraphrase, but it's close. So you may be like, cool. But what about, which is fair, what about politics? What about racism? What about COVID? What about the new variants of COVID? What about whether or not I've had a vaccine for COVID? What about the economy as a result of COVID? What about education? What about local small businesses? What about affordable housing, right? What about artists? What about entrepreneurs? What about the university on our doorstep that's full of these students who've got all of this ideology and idealism? They're passionate, they've got convictions. Don't each of these deserve some of our attention, some of our sacred ambition and vital energy? Sure, right? That's a ton of opportunity. That's a ton of need. Is this also beyond overwhelming? For me, yes, it is. It is. And here's the thing. We can, and I say from experience we can burn ourselves crispy trying to fix and engage and advocate and organize and convince and make space and create dialogue and take advantage of teachable moments and self-growth and community development and on and on and on. All these are good things. And if we neglect simple foundations like heart and mind and soul and strength, man, this just occurred to me. I love doing this live. This just occurred to me, and I got to look into this. I picked this up in recovery first, but I think it may overlap. Heart, mind, soul, and strength. In recovery, they say halt, right? Make sure that you're not hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. I wonder if those overlap with heart, mind, soul, and strength. So the point is, whatever your foundations are, we're going to practice these because this is the faith we've inherited. Those foundations, if we neglect those, we can fill our lives with a flurry of activity. You may even be very successful on paper. We can be screaming into the noise and not find peace. And in turn, we're not going to make our highest contribution to ourselves, to our families, to our communities, to a world that actually needs what they need most is us making our highest contribution. So we're going to spend the Lent season in preparation for Easter, sort of sinking back into the paradox of communal solitude. That is, when communities take some time and they intentionally pull together and step back from the harried pace of life to look at themselves, individuals, to look at themselves, communities. So we do that by getting alone together. We're going to do this in person and online. Thank you guys so much. We're going to hone our listening. And I'm going to be honest with you on the front end. I know enough to know we're onto something big here. I don't have the end of it yet. But this is what we're aiming for. We're going to do it by practicing. We're going to hone our listening to prefer to hear the wholeness and to let all of that other chatter become kind of background noise. And that will mean that we're going to learn, we're going to practice, which means we're going to fail. And I'm going to ask us to decide now that when we fail at practicing this, that we laugh at ourselves instead of being mad at ourselves. And over time, as we practice, we're going to learn from that. So we're going to listen so that we can hear the wholeness, so we can mute the noise. And Kenny is going to read for us. Let me just double check this. Yeah, awesome, cool. So Kenny's going to read for us. This is sort of the primary text for the whole series, and this is a reading out of Deuteronomy chapter 6. So go for it, Kenny.
Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. Keep these words that I am commanding you today in your heart. Recite them to your children and talk about them when you are at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you rise. Bind them as a sign on your hand, fix them as an emblem on your forehead, and write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates.
Awesome, thank you. So just take a minute while that's fresh, and I want you to think about whether or not there was a word or phrase in there that stood out to you. So I'm going to give you about 15 seconds, just whatever in what Kenny just read, was there something that jumped out? And maybe you weren't really paying attention, you're driving, or you've got other stuff going on, that's totally fine. But if you were paying attention, see if there's a word or phrase that jumped out to you, and don't do anything with that now. Set it on the counter, and you can come back to that in a second. And I'm going to read you something from an author called Frederick Buechner, and then we're going to sit in silence together. And it goes like this. If I can't see you for some reason, but can only hear you, you don't exist for me in space, which is where seeing happens, but in time, which is where hearing happens. Your words follow one after the other the way talk follows tick. When I have only the sound of you to go by, I don't experience you as an object the way I would if you stood before me. Something that can walk around, inspect from all angles, more or less define. I experience you more the way I experience the beating of my own heart or the flow of my own thoughts. A deaf man coming upon me listening to you would think that nothing of importance was going on, but something of extraordinary importance is going on. I'm taking you more fully into myself than I can any other way. Hearing you speak brings me, by the most direct of all routes, something of the innermost secret of who you are. It is no surprise that the Bible uses hearing, not seeing, as the predominant image for the way human beings know God. They can't walk around God and take God in like a cathedral or an artichoke. They can only listen to time for the sound of God. They can only listen to time for the sound of God. To the good times and the bad times of their own lives. For the words God is addressing to, of all people, them, you. That God is addressing to you. For 3 minutes, we're going to sit silently and listen to time for the sound of God. And we want to invite you, as always, to listen as is best for you. So for us, that's usually silent, but if you prefer some background music, there is that. There's this amazing drone footage that you guys can use to check out. You can have your eyes closed, use music or not, whatever is best for you. And we're cultivating that sort of inner drone, the examining the landscape of our own hearts, of our own inner life. And as we do this for 3 minutes, let's listen to time for the sound of God. If you had that word earlier that stood out from the text, and you want to grab that and use it as a mantra, feel free to do that. If you just want to use that phrase, listen to time for the sound of God, do that. We're going to sit silently for about 3 minutes, and you guys will have the drone footage there, and then we'll come back and get right into the sermon. Let's sit together. Awesome. Thanks again, Brandon, for the drone footage. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to time for the sound of God. I was thinking as I was sitting, kind of reflecting. That's the task of. That's the task, I think, of religion, of spirituality. That's what we're trying to do together as a community. It is to shape the way that we listen, to shape the way that we listen to time for the sound of God. And I think Buechner here nails, Buechner, by the way, if you're just tuning in, he's the one that read the quote that we read before we sat in silence. Frederick Buechner there nails the sensibility of this passage from Deuteronomy. It's called the Shema, the Shema, which is the Hebrew word. Shema translates hear, like you would think of it as hear with an exclamation point, as in a mandate, a command to hear. Or I think in our vernacular, we would say listen. Listen. That's why we've titled the series this. So listen, hear the wholeness, mute the noise. You guys can see that graphic coming up right there. This is sort of the way I've chosen in a modern moment to translate Shema. Hear. Listen up, y'all. Hear, O Israel, incline your ear. In the name Israel is rest. So anyone that's wrestled with God, listen up, is essentially the way the Shema opens, this famous prayer, this famous saying. Listen. Anyone who has wrestled with God, listen. And I would argue that covers most people. Right? I'm sure that there are some people who are so devout in their atheism that they have not ever, nor will they ever even consider God. But most of us, whether or not we're vehemently atheistic or true believers right now, somewhere along the line we've wrestled with God. The Shema opens, anyone who's wrestled with God, hear, O Israel, listen up, those who wrestle with God. And it's not for answers, it's not for beliefs, it's not for theologies, but listen rather for an event that's not unlike the beating of your own heart. It's mysterious and vital. Listen for the very source of life in which life is lived. So let us Shema, let us listen for an invitation into some self-reflection in this season of Lent. We're going to try to participate in the experience, the simple practice of the love of God. Heart, mind, soul, and strength. But it opens like this, and we'll get into each of those successively. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 6 words. Hear, O Israel. It translates into the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Or the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your might. And over the coming weeks, we're going to hit each one of those words: heart, mind, soul, and strength. But we're going to begin tonight with the opening line, which is just loaded. It's got these words listen, and then it's got the word one, right? Listen up, Israel. The Lord is one, the Lord alone. Now, we're several thousand years removed. I'm not a Hebrew Bible scholar. This is none of our native language. I don't think anyone on the live stream is a PhD in Hebrew. We want to begin with humility, is what I want to say. This sounds like, when we first read it, Hear, O Israel, the Lord, listen up, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone, right? The Lord is one, the Lord alone. It sounds like maybe it's about superiority, right? Our God is better. Or it maybe sounds like it's about monotheism, like there's only one God and that's our God, right? Our God's the best, or our God's the only one. And without getting into a ton of biblical scholarship, I just want to say no. Actually, what's happening here, because of what's going on in the ancient world, is that the Lord is one, the Lord alone, is a reaction to idolatry. This is the way the Hebrew people, as they form their religious life, this is the way they choose to respond to idolatry, which is really kind of the primary problem in the story that leads up, the whole Hebrew story that leads up to Jesus' faith. The point is, the issue is not superiority. The issue is not monotheism. And actually, it's a reaction to idolatry. And even it connects back to the story of the golden calf, if you're familiar with that. The issue being addressed in the Shema is idolatry. And so what follows, the no other gods before me in Deuteronomy 5, which is that version of the Ten Commandments, and it comes, so right after Deuteronomy 5 and right before Deuteronomy 6, which is where we find the Shema that we just heard, right in between is sandwiched this little passage. It says, you shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. He's not saying just don't make idols, right? Like statues, or don't make idols out of Facebook or out of Starbucks, or whatever your other gods are, right? Your other gods besides the main God. He's saying, don't even make one out of Yahweh. Don't even make one out of this God. Make no graven image, period. Don't even make one out of the one God that you think is the one true God. What you have to understand, though, is as we try to shape ourselves to listen to time for the sound of God, this was incredibly difficult in the ancient Near Eastern culture, and I think it's incredibly difficult today for very similar reasons. In the ancient Near East, every religion had an image for their deity. They had a god, they had a goddess, they had an animal, they had something, except for Israel. All of the other ancient Near Eastern cultures that surrounded them, with which they were coming in contact, right? They aren't in a bubble. There's all this syncretism of incoming cultures and religions and languages. So all these other ancient Near Eastern cultures and these religions, they share with Israel sacrifices, temples, priests, food laws, ritual clothing, rule clothing, behavior, marriage laws, building codes, on and dietary restrictions. They share all of these things, but at the center of Israel's temple, at the Holy of Holies, the holiest place, where every other religion had a statue because they had an idol, they had a figure, they had an image, Israel's Holy of Holies is empty. There's nothing there. Not even the image of Yahweh, their God. And even the name Yahweh isn't a name. I am, God says I am. I mean, imagine you've been told you have to love this God that you can't see. Everyone else gets to see their God, but not you. No physical representation. You can't hone and craft and set, on a shelf as a reminder. So at its core, whatever this love for God is grounded in mystery. And it's grounded in humility, right? That's part of their resolute commitment, is that God can't be confined. You don't even know what God's name is, no idea what this God looks like, or even much of an idea what this God is like. That's the God that these people get. And if we're honest with ourselves, isn't that the God that we get? Isn't that what we mean when we say we're wrestling with God? Is it so shrouded in mystery, so shrouded in unknowing, so shrouded in pasts where we've been much more certain, in presents where we feel like everything's a contradiction and we don't have any idea what to hang on to. But if idolatry is the major problem here in the story, what does that have to do with us? And what does that have to do with us as we try and figure out how to listen for the sound of God? So say an idol, a sacred object, is simply anything that promises certainty or satisfaction. And this is right out of Pete Rollins' work. Maybe through meaning or identity or purpose or truth or any of these other like self-actualization buzzwords, it promises somehow certainty or satisfaction. But any of those that are not rooted in oneness, that are not rooted in the source of wholeness, they're an idol, right? They're just other things that will pull you apart. Then maybe idolatry is not just something that people wrestled with, 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. Maybe it's something that we still live with now as much as ever. And the real question is, hey, Andrew, how's it going? Great to see you again. Hey, Karen. Hey, Danny. The real question is, are there things that promise us meaning or identity or purpose or truth? Are there things that promise us certainty and satisfaction that aren't wholeness, that aren't wellness, that aren't what's best for us? We might say, are there things that are promising us certainty and satisfaction that have ulterior motives? And I think we would agree, between media and politics, that's all we live in. That's our world, is that we're saturated by people and things and movements and marketing that promises us that we'll find our meaning and our identity and our purpose and our truth, that we'll finally get certainty and satisfaction. And they don't deliver. And we wonder why we're here as isolated and depressed and alone and mentally unhealthy. Man, we've got to figure out what coming back to some simple healthy foundations of heart and mind and soul and strength, what does that mean? What does that look like? And we've talked over time about these very real idols in the past, whether literal, physical idols that represent God or conceptual idols that claim to explain God. Let me say that again. Not just the golden calf, not just the graven image of the ancient Near Eastern god Baal, not just the ticker tape on the stock market, not just the number at the bottom of your bank account, not just the tag on the back of your car, whatever the idol is, not just the physical thing and the way that represents God for you, but the conceptual idol also that claims to explain God. This is every belief statement on every church website. This is the polity of such and such denominations that we can somehow conceptualize and explain God. That's just another form of idolatry. God winds up, and this is so much of why Collective is and what we've been doing, God winds up on the billboard to be hawked like any other product. God winds up in the same vending machine as my Volkswagen and the PhD that I hope to get one day. The same vending machine as the corner office and the marriage that promises to fix your loneliness, and just another product that fixes our uncertainty and dissatisfaction. Just another pill that if we take it promises to give us what we really want. Which, by the way, means what we really want is not God. Instead of loving God, instead of engaging with the love that is God, God becomes currency that buys us the thing we really want, which is an idol. And you may be thinking, what do you mean the thing we really want is an idol? God is one, God alone. And I deleted 11 pages of biblical studies to summarize this one line. God is one, God alone. These are two sayings, in two very Jewish ways, two ways of saying that God is not an idol and that God should not be idolized. Why? What's the point? Our belief systems about God are not God. God alone is God. Our theology and our language about God are not God. God alone is God. Our very best, even after 20 years in not only the practical church side, but in the academic study of the Christian tradition and theology, even our very best understandings of God and the Bible are not God, but God alone is God. Even if our experiences, the fullness of our experiences are not God. God alone is God. What we think of, the image that we have in our mind or our feeling or that deep desire to grasp this reality, whatever it is that's loaded for us in the word God, when we think, conceive, say, practice, when we think it, when we say that, when we imagine, even when we pray God, it's still not God. Part of what the Shema is saying more than anything else is that the very best you can do is still not God. The Shema begins by rejecting idolatry, which is to say begins with absolute humility. You don't know God in fullness, and you are not God, is the way the Shema is trying to orient its hearers. The name of God, you may go, why listen? So why listen? What is it that we're going to gain by listening to this call? The name of God is the name of a call that is by its nature resisting being nailed down to an image or a concept. This is a reading by a lifelong philosopher, and I would say an agitated saint. His name is John Caputo, and he's been a mentor for our friend Pete Rollins. He says this, and I just want to sort of pause and zoom back out again before I read this. So the point of what we're doing in the next 6 weeks is to shape the way that we listen, so that we might be able to connect with the God of our understanding, our conception of God, especially in this foundation of heart, mind, soul, and strength, to sort of return to those basics. And John Caputo says this, which I hope this makes sense of that for me. It's really moving to me, not because it explains it, but because it's poetic. So he says, the name of God is the name of a call to which we are supposed to be the response. Without the response, the name is a dead letter. The real death of God is to ignore the call, to let the specter expire, to let it draw its really last breath. For all the world, the only thing anyone can see and the only thing that exists is the response. The only witness to the call is the response. The rest is spectral. The rest is invisible. It's ghostly. Specters expect the truth. They expect us to make the truth come true. He's a philosopher, so he's getting poetic, which I love. He goes on, truth here does not mean what it means back in the departments of modern philosophy. Propositions inside our heads, picking out objects in the world outside of our heads. Instead, truth means making truth. Truth is verb, it's made a verb, doing the truth, making our lives into a work of truth. And so when the saint and mystic Meister Eckhart says God needs us, Caputo says he got the whole idea. He got the whole idea. God needs us. Without us, the name of God is a tinkling cymbal. The name of God is just talk without our response. When Paul said we are to fill up that which is lacking in the body of Christ, he got the whole idea. The earthly body of Jesus has taken leave of this world, of this corporeal realm. And now it's up to us to heal the sick left behind and to proclaim the year of Jubilee, which is, we talk about unconditional belonging. That means everybody's welcome. Everything's forgiven. When the author of the fourth gospel, the Gospel of John, said the word must become flesh, he got the whole idea. The disembodied spectrality of the call must become incarnated in the world of flesh and blood. Not just Jesus back then in a singular human body, but the call that has always been the call and will always be the call coming to life in me and Kenny and Freddie and Brandon and every one of you, in us, in this body. The call must become a response, which means we gotta listen. If our task as a congregation, if our task as people of faith is to help make the call a response, it means we've got to listen. And we've got to become better at being the kind of people that listen so that we can respond. The word must take the form of transformed flesh. Pardon me. No COVID, just on a tear. So we listen and we practice, right? From our hearts and our minds, our souls and our strength, so that we might become a response to the call. So that we might embody the call. Rather than settling for celebrating idols. So the Shema is an invitation to move toward and step into the orbit of a God of mystery. Which again, the sermon over and over is it has to be rooted in humility. A faith that listens. At its deepest level, I think idolatry, at least for me, has to do with my response to mystery, to unknowing, and to I think the insecurity that comes from that. And the Shema says you can't love God by making God the answer to your problems. That doesn't work. And that's what idolatry is doing. It says that the way that I'm going to love God is I'm going to make God the answer to my problems. It doesn't work. God is not a magic pill on Google Ads that's going to make you skinny. And anything that promises is not going to do it. They're happy or feel loved or find the right person or get a dream job or avoid suffering or on and on and on. Or even know for sure that there is a God. That's not the promise of God. God's not a genie, and God's not going to do that work for you. That's what the wrestling's for. God's story is not a story of certainty and satisfaction, but rather a call to wholeness and oneness. God is one, God alone. And I think what's being said is, the name of God is the name of a call. And if you try to turn that call into an idol, it's going to fail every time. But if you tune your ear to listen to that call so that your life might be the response, then we're on to something. And if that could be the simple pursuit of this community in the next year, of this congregation, we would be on to something. That would give us some grounding and some footing for the amazing work we're doing. We're working on affordable housing. We've got a huge slate of conversations this week, right? Who have we got? We've got some big stuff coming up, right?
We have the chair of our county council on Tuesday.
Okay.
And we have another county council member on Thursday, and then just an hour later we have the mayor of New Smyrna Beach.
Yeah.
And hopefully more. We're getting booked either next week or the week after because we have more council members to meet with that we're hoping will respond.
Yeah. So if you're one of those people who's always wondered, like we don't have like a theology statement or a belief statement or anything really kind of other than the community statement. And so we don't like to be nailed down very much. But just to make some of our theology very clear, we think people should have houses. We think that that's just. And so we're really working for that. And it's not that we're just a group of people who like to get together every Sunday and celebrate that there is a call for people to have houses, right? That's great. And there's lots of churches that are doing that. And it's an exciting thing that there's a call that people should all have a house. But in order to become the response, you've got to do things like community organizing. You've got to do things like have really difficult conversations with public representatives where you hold them accountable for the values that our community wants to see true of us, that wants to see come true for the common good, which means everybody. Anyway, I got on that soapbox. But yeah, the call has to become a response. Not just a feeling, but the movement. The materiality, the rhythm expressed of this one source, of this one call. As we come to the table, we're invited to put down our quest for the acquisition of a thing or an explanation that'll make us whole, that'll make us certain, that'll finally satisfy us, that'll help us to leave behind the packs full of things that we think that we can't live without, that'll remove that anxiety in our chest because we don't know. And the hope is that at this table, in this moment, that you would, wherever you are, now or if you're listening to it later, that you would, I'm not going to say try, because I don't think it's a try thing. I'm hoping that you'll trust yourself to put those things down for just a second and to let yourself feel safe, to let yourself feel welcomed by us and by all of us, the many other people that are on with us right now. And to imagine that you feel that in the presence of a God who is love and who feels for us and for all people love. And I hope that maybe for you that can feel like light or that can feel like warmth. I hope there is a sensual sort of transcendent experience there. And if there's not, it's still totally real also. And it's still totally true that you're welcome. And part of the reason that you're welcome at this table is because you're surrounded by us, imperfect people who are on the same path with you. And what this is us coming together for a meal, us finding a moment of rest together on the side of the road, And taking a breath together and listening together. The table of this listening love is set for us tonight. It's open to us and to all people, and no one will ever be turned away. If you've got elements with you, feel free to take them. If you want to close your eyes and imagine that experience or some other positive experience, a visceral and tangible and sensual oneness and wholeness with this call, with the call of God that has always been, that will always be, and the call that calls us to respond. Let's sit with that for a few minutes and we'll close with a song, and then I think Freddie's got a slick benediction for us, right?
Sure do.
Heck yeah. You need this one? Strum it out for a second.
What day is it? And in what month? This clock never seems so alive. I can't give up. I can't back down. I've been losing so much time. 'Cause it's you and me, all other people with nothing to do, nothing to lose. And it's you and me, and all other people, and I don't know why can't keep my eyes off of you. All of the things I wanna say just ain't coming out right. Tripping on words, got myself slipping. I don't know where to go from here. 'Cause it's you and me, and all other people, nothing to do, nothing to lose. And it's you and me, and all other people, and I don't know why can't keep my eyes off you. Something about you now I can't quite figure out. 'Cause everything she does is beautiful. Everything she does is right. 'Cause it's you and me, and all other people, nothing to do, nothing to lose. And it's you and me, and all other people, and I don't know why I can't keep my eyes off of you and me, and all other people, nothing to do, nothing to lose. It's you and me, and all other people, and I don't know why I can't keep my eyes off you. What day is it? And in what month? This clock never seems so alive.
Fred, thanks, man.
Anytime.
Appreciate it. Kenny, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you being on and chatting with the online community.
Dan has a question about the Zoom.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, we are going to have a Zoom conversation immediately to follow, so we'll share that right now. Thanks for asking that, Dan. That link should be coming into the... oh, it's right there already, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, okay. We'll share it through there in just a second. And then you can jump over with the Zoom. We're going to have some further conversation and dig into this more. Look at all you guys. Thank you for being on with us. The Zoom link is now in the chat, so go ahead and jump over there. We also do have a link tree, so if you don't have the email yet, you are going to want to go ahead and subscribe to the email. But at the top of the email, there's going to be a button that says Connect with Us. And when you click on that button, it's going to take you to a link tree. And that link tree has the links that you need. Lots of the questions that you've had in the last year with the pandemic and online stuff and streams and Zooms. The link tree is going to be the beginning to which means you need to get the email. So get the email, sign up for that.
All sentient beings.
Grace and peace. Awesome. Put your hands together as a symbol of our intention. First, to our forehead for clarity of thought. Then to our lips for clarity of speech, to our hearts for clarity of action, so that in all that we say and do, love would be our first thought, our first word, our first deed. Grace and peace, and we will see you right now on the Zoom. I'm actually going to have Brandon kill the feed, and I'm clicking in right now.